So I heard that the panel just ended. How do you think that the fans were reacting to your new show there, to your new pilot?
I think it was good. It seemed very successful to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I was thinking because that may be the only chance we would really ever get to experience a big audience's reaction to the show, because everyone watches them at home.
What got you guys to kind of sign on for this?
It's a great script, and Kevin Williamson has constructed a very exciting, terrifying world with great characters. Paige Turner, dying to know what happens in episode 2, and then things just started falling into place. We had Marcos Siega did a beautiful job directing it, and James Purefoy coming on, to be this brilliant serial killer was just a real feather in everyone's cap.
And how about you? Was it the same thing?
Yeah, I think when you always just look at the script, don't you, to begin with. And the script really was one of those scripts that you just had no idea what was going to happen next, and you just didn't see it coming over the horizon at all. And quite often you do when you read thriller scripts. And this one, I just didn't see it happening. I'm working with him. He's a legend. And he's, such a great actor. And we're going to have so much fun working our scenes. I know that we're probably going to have scenes every week, and it's going to be like playing tennis against somebody who's much better than me. So it will be somebody that I will get better playing against.
Well, can you talk a little bit about the relationship between Ryan and Joe, the character? So it's very complicated.
It's complicated, yeah. I mean, I think for one thing, obviously, I hate him. I spent many years of my life trying to put him behind bars, but there's also part of me that really admires him, because there's elements to Joe's character that my character just doesn't have. He's very charming. I'm not really that charming. He's good with people. He's extremely well educated. All things that my character doesn't really have. All I really have is instinct. And my instinct was that he was the guy, and in a strange way, the most exciting and most fulfilling times in my life are the times that I've spent either chasing him or with him, which is like strange. And when you meet the character, we haven't seen each other for 10 years, and it's almost like I'm heartbroken not to be in his presence.
It's a strange kind of love story in a way. It really is.
Very twisted
he
one.
sees him, he looks at Ryan, and he knows exactly how to push every button that he's got. He knows exactly how to wind him up. He knows exactly how to get him angry. And, so it is like a kind of a mad kind of, relationship that they've got here, kind of a weird marriage that's going on.
And we find out, I don't want to, spoil everything, but we find out some things about Joe's character, and maybe he's not the only one out there possibly
yeah, but
it's okay, you can spoil that.
He's certainly the one pulling all the strings, though.
Right.
And I think that's what sets him apart from your average serial killer, is the fact that there's got this extra dimension of him building this cult. They're building this cult using the internet. We all know the internet can be used for extraordinary benign things, but also there are some appallingly malign things on the internet. And I think that's the other thing that Kevin, the other strand that he's dealing with here is if you could use the internet to create a cult of serial killers, wow, how scary is that?
And did you guys look to people in history to kind of, as kind of like foundation for your characters to kind of base them on, or was it?
Well, I spent about a week in a darkened room watching interviews with serial killers on YouTube, and that's not that Friday when I came out, it was kind of ugly and dark, and because there's so much stuff, there's so much material out there. So my character is, I've kind of picked sort of 2 or 3 serial killers, well-known serial killers, and those are the ones that I'm using for my inspiration.
And what did you learn from them? Anything surprising?
No, I think you understand pretty quickly that there's that with an awful lot of serial killers, there's this thing of having a kind of a little bit of DNA missing, a kind of bit of genetic chink of missing to do with empathy, that they simply don't. They don't feel if you feel bad. They don't feel if you are hurting, or if you're in pain, or if you're distressed. they don't feel that. So there's that. And also, they're often people who are very weak and people who have got very low self-esteem and have had their power taken away from them when they were very young. And they're people who need to really find a way to control their environment again. And what they do to repower themselves is use that power over other people. It's quite simple. And they're often very pathetic, sad figures.
Right, and Kevin, you've directed episodes of The Closer. If the opportunity, came up, would you want to direct an episode of The Following if they asked you? And
maybe. I'd have to think about it. It's I've directed myself, but only in very, very small parts. I had a very small part in a film I directed, and that is that's extremely challenging. And certainly I understand, from watching Kira, how difficult it is to get through a day on an hour drama, and then to actually be the director. I know the pressure that there is to do that. So it's not something that I'm like, you got to put this in my contract. I got to do it. You know what I mean? But if it happens organically, maybe it would be fun. I mean, I think that Marcos Siega did a great job in establishing a really fantastic look and feel for the show, and I think it's going to be fun, and it's going to be interesting for the directors who come on board to really keep that bar, up here, because it feels like a little feature, and I think that's the kind of feeling that we want to keep.
And at Comic-Con, we celebrate the inner nerd in all of us. What's the kind of geekiest moment that you've had in your lives that really sticks out for you?
I remember one time I was, I thought I was a pretty big star, and I was a really huge fan of the Police. So going back when the Police first were starting out, and I heard that Sting was staying in the same hotel that I was in, and so I got up my courage. And I had this idea that if I just called him, he'd probably want to hang out and party with me. So I picked up the phone and I went to call the front desk, and he wasn't under a suit on them. And I said, hey, can you ring Sting's room for me? They did. He picked up the phone. And I was like, hey, Sting. This is Kevin Bacon. There's a pause. Kevin Bacon, the actor Kevin Bacon. He goes, fill me in.
That's very good.
So I hung up.
That's very good.
That was pretty geeky.
And how about you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. I had one very recently. I asked for an autograph. The only time I've ever asked for an autograph. It was for my son, obviously. Lead singer, AC/DC, a couple of weeks ago. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Having supper with him. Could he just sign there for me? Just for my son. My son's a big AC/DC fan.
That's awesome.
I don't really have many moments like that. I think
He's too cool to have a geeky moment.
I don't really do, geeky things.